live stream the meeting. First time I've done this actually, going live via Zoom. All right, so we're live here in the Facebook group. I'm here with Matt Bruce, a very special guest. He's a member of the community, and I started this community a few weeks ago, and I was really looking to create something collaborative, and he showed up and started contributing, and I started to get to know him and appreciating him and discovering that he's got a lot going on. He's had a lot of success as an entrepreneur, and he's doing some really fascinating work with microdosing. So, hey, Matt Bruce, nice to have you here. Thanks for coming. How's it
Yeah,
going?
thank you, Justin. It's good to be here. Good to be around the men. And yeah, I'm all for about containers and groups that are supporting men to be coaches, etc., and lift each other up. I think I said to you, I did my first online program in 2018, and there was literally no men's coaches online back then. This is pre-COVID, so hardly any transformation was online. A lot of transformation was in person, and to then see how many men are online at the moment trying to lift each other up and change the world and get their messages out there. So what's that? It's like 6 years. It's pretty inspiring to see the amount of men that are out there doing the work. So yeah, maybe I can share some of my path today and maybe give some insights to some brothers to support them to, lean
That
in a
sounds
little bit
awesome.
further on their journey or, or
Totally.
a bit more courage. Yeah.
Courage, that's an interesting concept. But anyway, let's let's yeah, so what I'm really interested in learning about from you is one, what you're up to with your microdosing school and microdosing in general, because I haven't, it's been on my radar for a long time, but it never really felt like, yes, that's something I want to do. I've taken the approach of more of like the hero's dose, to quote Terence McKenna, which is infrequently in high doses alone in the dark. But you've got me, I've been following you on your stories and whatnot, and you've got me really looking at this microdosing thing and starting to maybe see the value in it. So I'd
Yeah.
love if you could share a little bit about what makes microdosing such a potent vehicle for change, I guess you could say.
Mm. Yeah, all right. So let's look at the macro dose then and say we can take a big macro dose, but if our life is kind of like not at the level that it needs to be at, we can go back home. And yes, that macro dose can help us, slowly integrate some of those pieces over time. But really, what is the most healing thing for us is our home environment, our routine, and how we're showing up for ourselves kind of on the regular. So, really that's what microdosing can do is like really help us have incremental change that is kind of like, so slowly added to us that it can hold. Sometimes the macro dose can be like a lacquer band where we just like pull our nervous system back and stretch it. And yes, we get the change, we get a glimpse of it, but we just flick back to where we were. So the microdosing is kind of like slow and steady.
Mhm.
And I guess what I'm teaching in the microdosing school is kind of a background of somatics, of how you can take all of these somatic practices that are uniquely for your blueprint to support you to, if you did what I was teaching, just took away the microdose, you would have a better home environment and you would have a more stable internal relationship with yourself. You would, have more capacity to tune in and make the right yeses and the right nos and date the right person and have the clear communication and be able to show up for yourself when it really counts. What the microdosing does is allows people who may not have the capacity for change or maybe struggling to make change, support that for themselves. So somebody who may have gone through trauma, who may have a nervous system that's not really having the capacity to take on um, new somatic practices can be supported by the microdose to do so.
Nice. Yeah, my internet's super slow right now, so I'll do my best to keep up with you. And more open to this, was discovering your work, and then as well as um, discovering another person's work who's totally different. They are dealing specifically with trauma. They don't get into any of the microdosing. And that stuff's been blowing my mind, learning about trauma, the nervous system. And then I've been hearing you talk about very similar things, the like how the effects of like neglect that can have on a very, very young child and how that affects our relationship with ourselves. And then I thought it was so interesting how you were bringing the and how that can actually get right in there to these really, really deep aspects of how we relate to ourselves and our just kind of our basic core beliefs of how we process reality and relationships and stuff like that. And how does how does that work though? What is it about is it psilocybin that you're using for
Yeah.
in a situation like that where maybe yeah.
As both things, bro. So you can imagine that from childhood trauma, if we have like an unstable environment that is, not supportive of our nervous system. So in that traumatic, etc., it's not meeting our needs or it's, too much of something. That can affect the way that our serotonin is processing its reality. We can actually shut down the way that we interpret serotonin and the way that we distribute serotonin in our mind as well. And then also, if we're not getting the correct level of intimacy that we need, and I guess there is no level of correct, but if we're maybe being neglected in the intimacy department from our parents, that can really affect the way that our oxytocin is regulated in our body as well. And it can also affect our prefrontal cortex, our prefrontal cortex development. It can affect the way that our peripheral nervous system is regulated as well too. But the good thing is that we can actually become like our own mothers. I think that this is really powerful for men, especially for men, to develop like a practice of really regulating our own nervous system, really regulating, what happened to us between the ages of 0 to 3, even,
Wow.
from 0 to 10, and any of those facets that didn't feel met by our mother, we can meet them. We can become our own mother. We can really drop in and regulate our oxytocin. We can use the psilocybin to regulate our serotonin. And then ultimately we have, relaxed peripheral nervous system. Then our central nervous system is, firing correctly, where we're inside of our window of tolerance. We're able to produce in our endocrine system the correct hormones for us to be able to bond in relationship as well. So if we have some very core kind of deep wounds within inside of ourselves that are holding us in a state of stress, we're going to be unregulated as men and not be able to hold it down to, make a woman feel safe because we're kind of going to be going through our wobbles,
Mm.
and, speaking up and acting out, etc. And in that, our central nervous system is not going to be able to be regulated. So, this is pretty hot for women, I think, when a man can really show up for himself and love himself. There's not like these needy boy that's trying to like get at his woman. And also it can be great for first time fathers as well. Obviously there's quite a large shift of in dynamics in the family when we have a baby, that the mum and the baby kind of really getting that oxytocin intimate needs met, and the father can kind of go through a large shift. So if the father can kind of like regulate these pieces within inside of himself, it can be, really create a lot of safety for the family as well.
Nice. Yeah. Wow. And I think it's always been kind of a mystery when I look around at all the people around me, the such a range of experiences people are having, from thriving and effortlessly flowing through life and having wonderful romantic relationships and friendships and abundance and just an awesome lifestyle. And then other people, they just struggle so much with depression and anxiety and loneliness. And I think that despite humanity's incredible technology and gadgets and things that we've created, we still have so far to go with healing those things that are creating all that pain. And I feel like this work is really, it's really identifying what what the issue is, and it's offering some very powerful solutions to that. What is it about the psilocybin though that because I'm totally feeling it like it's got the ring of truth, like it's the nervous system, it's these things that happen to us when we're like 2 years old. But what is it about the psilocybin that is so powerful for getting in on that deep level?
Yeah, so from my understanding of like studies in pharmacology, etc., is that when we consume psilocybin, it works on a receptor called a 5-HT, 5-HT, 5H, yeah, 5-HT,
5-HTP?
yeah, no, 5-HT2A
Oh, it's a
receptor.
different one. Okay.
Yeah, and that receptor is partially antagonized by psilocybin. So that means that, it partially antagonizes the serotonin, but it fully like releases hallucinogenic effects. So you're kind of like partially stimulating the serotonin and then having a full hallucinogenic effect. So that's what makes psilocybin quite safe. You can actually consume up to 30 grams of psilocybin as long as you've got a healthy liver. Please don't do that. It's not, that's
Mhm.
not, advice to go do 30
I knew a
grams.
guy in high school that he claimed he did it.
Yeah.
He might be in
So,
line, but he claimed he did 30
and
grams.
yeah, you're going to have a big ass hallucinogenic process in that, but also,
Yeah.
the serotonin component of that is quite safe by design. I don't think there's many psychedelics in nature that can really overdose on, and that's because of by design they're natural. They're not big
Yeah.
pharma.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, then what's happening is in that partially antagonized serotonin component of the receptor, we can actually go back and communicate to our DNA. So the DNA can actually grab that information, same as like medicinal mushrooms can. So, medicinal mushrooms and a lot of other plants on the planet have like DNA changing properties.
Wow.
And basically, we can start to rectify different parts of our DNA. So, you know, psilocybin is one mushroom that can heal, our serotonin profile, etc. But other medicinal mushrooms are so magical at healing other parts of the body as well too. So, that's one thing I'd like to talk into is we can't just take psychedelics and expect to have, really grounded, intimate relationships with one another. If we've been through deep traumatic trauma, in that there's often normally consequences where there's probably like excess heat or excess dampness in a person's nervous system or body that their organs are probably like not calibrated. So looking at the small intestine, looking at the heart, the lungs, the liver, all of these organs is basically the inner relationship that you have with your inner world is what you have with your outer world. So, our small intestine is responsible for looking at food when it comes into our body and looking at information as to whether it's right or wrong. And it has a lot to do with whether we feel full and happy and content in eating our food. So, if we're been smashing a lot of unhealthy food in our trauma process and our small intestine is not balanced, then ultimately the information that we take in, we're not going to be able to judge whether it's right or wrong. So the person that we're dating, the woman that we're sitting next to, we're not going to be able to like actually read her information correctly. Then we're not going to be able to process that. And then even if we were to have our needs met by that person, we might actually be able to feel satiated or complete or full because we
Mhm.
don't have the capacity to because our body's out of whack. So,
Wow.
the other medicinal mushrooms like chaga are really good for the small intestine. Obviously fasting, these kind of things. Shiitake is really good for the spleen. Lion's mane is really good for the mind. Reishi is really good for the kidneys. Each kidney has their own medicinal mushroom that we can take to run protocols on to balance our inner world. And it's the whole ecosystem which is going to create a balanced centered human, which is then going to heal these things that you're talking about, like neglect and like depression.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. I had a conversation this morning with a woman that specializes in coaching people with neurodivergent conditions. I don't know if that's how they generally say it. And she mentioned microdosing, and I have a bottle of lion's mane mushrooms that a friend gave to me. They were leaving the country, and they're like, "Hey, here, take all these supplements." And it's just kind of been sitting there. I was like, "Oh, I'll take some of those." And then I was thinking about our upcoming conversation, and I thought, "Oh, I'll take some of those lion's mane." And I don't really know what it does, but I hear good things about it. So
Mhm.
it's good for the mind, eh?
Yeah, yeah. Lion's mane's great for neural networks. Another really good supplement for the brain is bee pollen as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, ultimately, the brain is the gut. And what we're actually experiencing in mind fog or in our mind is really just an interpretation of what's happening in the gut. So
Yeah.
the flora fauna and
Yeah.
B vitamins that exist within the gut. So maybe like a lion's mane B vitamin, like a bee pollen stack, could be really good for your mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, cool. And that was really interesting what you were talking about with the small intestine and feeling full. And in my own journey of becoming more and more comfortable in my skin and more at peace and joyful, there's been a direct correlation with my relationship with food.
Hmm.
Because in the past, I would use food to try and make myself feel better. So I would get stressed out and I would eat junk food. And as I've gotten less depression, less anxiety, more healthy, more joyful, um, I felt way less the need to eat the junk food. And so I think the food is trying to calm. I think maybe the energy goes to the stomach and we're digesting, and then the mind chatter turns off or something like that. Um, oh yeah, and
Yeah.
then yeah, if you want to speak on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, ultimately, we can eat food to try and release oxytocin as well.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Or
yeah,
interesting, not nice, but
yeah.
interesting.
But
Okay,
ultimately, that's just a form of self-soothing. So really what you're soothing yourself is
100%.
through food. But ultimately, when you're eating junk food, what you're actually doing is just putting yourself into a stress response. So yeah, you're actually like just hiding stress within your body. And
Mm,
the mind chatter was probably that you were actually coming up against some feeling that you hadn't been able to integrate. So you can
mm,
imagine that if you were in your parasympathetic nervous system and your mind didn't want to be there, your mind's like, hey, what's this what's this area within our body? We don't want to go down and relax because there's all of these sadness and traumas and everything from the past that we don't want to deal with. Let's stay up here in the sympathetic nervous system. So let's smash junk food to keep us in a fight or flight response in a state of stress. Does that make sense?
absolutely.
Yeah.
That resonates very so truly with my personal experience of
Yeah.
absolutely.
So,
And then
I'll
sorry.
go back a step quickly. The desire for oxytocin or the desire to self-soothe in that process is correct. Like your desire is, I want to self-soothe, in the secretion of like oxytocin or dopamine, we can actually be 200% more kind of resilient to pain. So if we do have thoughts that are happening within our mind, intrusive thoughts, more than likely that there's a really challenging emotion in the body somewhere.
Mhm.
We don't have the capacity to really drop in and clear it. So with oxytocin, with dopamine, with these neurotransmitters, if we can create a self-soothing method that stimulates them, then we can actually hop in the body and have more capacity to feel the things that we didn't want to feel. So
Yeah.
it's identifying that, in that moment, I'm not actually wanting food. I'm desiring to be self-soothed. And then it's like,
Yeah.
can you upgrade your methods or work with somebody to understand what the different ways of self-soothing are to move through them?
Nice. So the instinct to self-soothe, we don't need to beat ourselves up for that. That's a healthy response
Yeah.
is to self-soothe, but just to do it in a constructive way rather than
Yeah, well,
maybe.
let's go. Are you open to doing a little process?
Yeah, please.
So, let's just reflect on how your parents self-soothed. So, what did your mum and dad do to self-soothe back in the day?
Gosh, I mean, I don't,
Yeah.
I know it's such a powerful question. I'm just thinking I don't want to, you
Yeah.
know, give away any dirty
Yeah.
My they both love their marijuana.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing.
Yeah, yeah, and
Self-soothing through substances. Yeah.
yeah, and my dad, he makes wine in his basement, and so he'll drink a few glasses of wine
Yeah.
each night, and he's not like a drunk or anything. He's not like an angry person. He's
Yeah.
totally pleasant to be around when he's smoking and drinking, but
Yeah.
that's his way, and he says it makes him happy. He's retired, and
Yeah.
what does my mom do my mom, she what's the word, like buries herself. I'm trying to think of a better word, in her hobbies. She's a
Okay.
extremely talented. She makes all kinds of things. She's always making new things, but she's an incredible crafts person, and she'll just immerse, that's the word. She'll
Yeah.
immerse herself in her hobbies,
Hmm.
in her own world, creating. That's
Yeah.
kind of her way of soothing, I would say. Yeah.
Well, this can be like a window into where we can actually see. So, you know, you mightn't have liked that your dad did those substances as a child at some point or something, but then you may have like picked up on the mechanism of self-soothing through substances. So, rather than it being wine, for you, it might be McDonald's or something. But it's like ultimately, the self-soothing patterns that we can learn
Mhm.
from our parents is something that we can deploy. So, the first answer when looking at our own self-soothing methods is like look at the people around us and from the past and just have a look at, you know, um, what patterns we may have learned. And then, it takes practice. The element of self-soothing is not about soothing when you're challenged. It's soothing when times are good in the proper way and actually creating a new neural pathway and
Nice.
creating a new practice that when times do get challenging, that you're actually, oh, I can soothe in this particular way. Does that make sense? Because when,
Wow.
when a really
Absolutely.
big charge comes up for you and, self-soothing is kind of like the real portal for huge potential and growth, that then the big stuff starts to come up. What was calling you to go to the fridge, to overeat food, etc. That might only be, a little bit of, tiredness or something, but we've got that whole scale of emotions and we can go all the way down to shame and self-hatred and like, disgust and these real strong visceral emotions within inside of ourselves. And we want to be able to hold
Mhm.
them within inside of ourselves as well too. So, the more tools and the more resource we can be within inside of ourselves, the more embodied we can be. So we're not kind of like spiritually bypassing, or we don't need to go to a breathwork circle. Yes, we can heal breathwork in we can heal a lot of these things in breath work, or we can go to be resourced by other people. But the real power is to be able to hold them ourselves as well, not in a form of stubbornness, but just, anytime, anywhere, I've got me.
Nice. Wow. Absolutely. Okay, so I want to ask you about what you have going on with your microdosing school, and then I want to change gears and talk shop a little bit
Yeah.
for the benefit of the members of this community, because we're all transformation coaches, and I've been getting to know a lot of the individuals, and everyone's on a different place in the entrepreneurial journey, and you've achieved a lot, and so I'd love for you to, well, first tell us about microdosing school, if you'd be so kind, and then if we can get into some advice for some of the guys that are earlier on in the journey, that would be awesome.
Yeah. I'll go back a step. So, I launched my first 7-week program in 2008. That was when I think it was Kajabi, and these platforms didn't even exist. It was called Active Campaign. And you used
Hmm.
to have to upload a video on YouTube and like take a photo of it and then put the photo inside Active Campaign and make it a hyperlink. And basically that's how you're creating online courses back then,
Hmm.
all the way through to working with Kajabi. And I built like a course for an organization that I was working with, part owner in, called the Happiness Co. That went to probably 100,000 people in 6 different languages, 6 different countries. One of the largest Fortune 500 companies in the world picked that up as a preemptive mental health one, and that made over probably 300-400 grand. And then I actually had an online men's work course creator where I helped men make their online course at one point. We made like
Oh,
probably
cool.
5 men go through online courses. Um,
Cool.
and that worked well in some areas and didn't work well in others. Our first person that launched a program on that made $75,000 in sales in 2 weeks. Um, and then I've just launched the second round of my microdosing school. So the microdosing school is kind of like a hybrid where you can show up and do the school for yourself, or you can do it to become a facilitator. So you can learn how to facilitate microdosing work. Um, and yeah, so currently I am just doing this super simple. I think we can kind of overcomplicate online courses these days by, building huge big Kajabi suites out and spending lots of time and money to build something out that then somebody has to log in to go into another platform, etc. So yeah, this is just like a Squarespace website, which then I use an app called Moonclerk. Not sure if you've heard of Moonclerk. You should check it out. It's like a pay one, so you can do payment plans, and there's lots of flexibility. So you can kind of take like a deposit here and then start payments here. Everyone has their kind of unique payment that they need these days in their current economical situation. So just try to cater with the medicine work for all people. It's not so much about pricing people out of or trying to generate large amounts of money when working in medicine. So it's about being flexible and being available for people. So Moonclerk's a really good app. And then I have a WhatsApp group and Zoom calls. So everything's in the WhatsApp group. I'm kind of using Canva for PowerPoint presentations. And so, at the end of a Zoom group call, basically everyone would just get like a weekly practice explained, a weekly practice, video. So 2 separate videos, slideshow from the previous presentation and like a replay. So the replay will go into the group as well within an hour. And then everyone's kind of got what they're needing for the week ahead. And we're doing somatic practices, which is like somatic tools. And then we're doing 8 calls in a row. So 8 calls back to back. I have like a full-time support person in the school. So I have a tendency these days when I'm coaching containers that people can have pretty big upgrades. And then I guess for me as a facilitator, it feels I can stay in my role as facilitating rather than getting down in the emotional support level. So I have like a full-time somatic specialist as well. She's got a lot of experience in psychedelics, so she supports me in the container. Together we send it. We've got another. Actually, this round, like I've got like probably 5 or 6 students from the previous round wanting to go again. So they've all like asked to stay in the school. So they're doing the content again. So I think there's close to 30 people in this round. Full-time support person, another kind of support person as well. So I think that kind of helps with the more people you have in the space, the more space holders that you have to be able to, hold the container. And then I guess I take that work pretty serious as well. I don't just see it as like an online course. I see it as a way for me to really show up in my practices. So, my movement, my energy, my emotions leading up to the container. I might have put a story about this up the other day that you might have seen, but like 5 days out from the container opening, I really shift gears. I won't do really any work. I'll just be working on myself, and I can really feel everyone's nervous system in the container and nearly feel what they're feeling. And then it's like there's an extension of that. So it's like allowing my nervous system to upgrade to be able to hold that. So then it's kind of like more of a more practice in what can my nervous system hold, how many people can my nervous system hold, and how much abundance can I hold in that as well too.
Wow, very cool, very cool. Okay, so last question is, what advice would you give to someone who they they've gone through a lot of personal evolution, they're very bright, they've gone to Machu Picchu, they've done ayahuasca, they've read lots of books, they've studied sacred geometry and NLP or whatever, and they feel a real calling to they want to they want to be in business for themselves. They want to help people. They want to do something in the realm of health and spirituality, and they know they've got a lot to offer, but they're not sure like how to proceed in terms of kind of bringing it together, making it a business, finding clients. What advice would you give to that person?
First thing I'd probably say to them, I know this is going to sound a little whack, but first thing I'd probably say to them is get an evolutionary astrology reading.
Wow.
And understand what the evolutionary path is or what their soul's path is and what energy they're here to show up in. So, if the evolution is Capricorn, versus a Cancer, they're kind of two different things. So one's like business, one's the home. So, like understanding like what's written for you in the stars is a really
Mm,
cool place to start. You can get
nice.
huge amounts of information from like a evolutionary astrology reading. For me, what my evolutionary astrology is Virgo and Taurus. So Taurus is about pleasure. So that's why I've worked in intimacy schools and sexuality schools, and Taurus is very much about the senses. So you can imagine in microdosing school, we're talking about all of the different senses within the body and activating them. And senses are very related to oxytocin and neural networks. And you'll find if you get a reading that you've probably already done it, and it's no coincidence that they're aligning. But that's a really good place to start. And then also just make sure if you've done all this work, you should have a good guidance system. You should really be tuned into what your yeses and what your nos are and the opportunities of life and how they're kind of moving. And I'd really reflect on what is your own will and what is the will of all of creation. And like that's a co-creation as well. So we don't want to kind of like be stubborn men and grab this idea or definitely not copy an idea. We want it to be creative and come from our own kind of like source. And we want to co-create. We don't want to do all the work. We want to ask for it, and we want to take aligned action to build a vision. So, getting clear and build a vision that can change. Like we don't have to be visioning something 20 years time from now. Just, vision your next step. You might only have the next step as a piece of information, and get clear and start to vision that, start to dream that. Let the will bring that to you. You co-create by taking steps as well. So it's kind of working together. You don't want to just be trying to slam something home in a co-creation that maybe the universe doesn't want, or it mightn't be right for you as well. So you've got to be listening and be aware, and that will facilitate for you to not work as hard and have more rest and more play and be in a vibration of being openness is going to allow you to receive as well too. Because I guess a lot of that's important in the way that we're actually trying to create and manifest and receive, that we need to be able to be flexible, and we do that by not overworking, etc. as well.
Wow, very cool answer. Thank you for that. Where can people find more information about you and your work?
Just on Matthew Bruce, I think it's Matthew Bruce official on Instagram is probably the best place. I do
Okay.
have the microdosingschool.com is a website as well, so you can learn more about the 8-week program there. But ultimately, the 8-week program is kind of like a archetypal initiation as well. So we kind
Yeah.
of go through, medical contradictions, pharmacology of psilocybin, different trauma techniques, and then we go through an archetypal initiation, and it's pretty powerful. It's pretty affordable. It's $800 USD. You can get payment plans for that for the 8 weeks. and then you can get access, depending on where you are in the world, to psilocybin products through that as well too. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, well, that was an awesome conversation that you shared so much wisdom with us. So thank you. And thank you for being a part of the group. And I'm gonna continue following your work. So yeah, man, it's been
Right.
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the call. I'll remember your interest in the microdosing school next round. I think next round's in June, so I'll hit you up
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah, let's
Um,
do that. Yeah. I have no idea how to not go live on Facebook, but I'm just gonna click a bunch of stuff until it
okay.
stops. So have a good day, bro. Talk soon.
Right. Thank you. Bye.
Yes.